Hello and welcome back to International Corner. Today we will be looking at things to do under 30 seconds, things to do at age 37, and things to do under the pouring rain. Richard Hall, do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, I know quite a lot about the pouring rain being from the UK, but yes, I do know what you're talking about. Absolutely. And yeah, it's all about our recent results, I believe.
Yeah, recent results, and of course we will be looking at the games that we had that brought us to an historical achievement, which is, of course, nailing the Champions League final that we will be playing on May 31st. And, of course, the Serie A that happened just last night in the pouring rain. The 30-second thing. So I have actually, before the show, while I was preparing for this, I actually Googled it. Things to do in under 30 seconds, Richard. So what can you do in under 30 seconds? Name a few things that you can do in under 30 seconds in your daily life.
Drink a glass of water.
Drink a glass of water.
There you go.
We can escalate quickly here this show.
No, it's like, what else? I've got to be careful what I say here, haven't I? What else can I do in 30 seconds?
You can text a message.
You can text a message, that's true. Very true.
What else?
True.
What else?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Have a cafe.
Have a cafe, an espresso.
Right.
You can have an espresso, not
yeah,
not the English coffee served in a mug.
No.
It's just boiling hot. But if you called Marcus Thuram and you have been away from football for quite a while, in 30 seconds you can score a goal when you play against Barcelona in Barcelona to earn a spot in the UCL final. And that was, I think, I don't know, the game that opening like that in the first leg, of course, I'm talking about here. Mm-hmm. I was shocked because, of course, everyone thought, in Barcelona, against Barcelona, one of the strongest teams in the world, starting like that, I think sums up how it all ended up for us in the end. Don't you think, Richard?
I think so. I think it was the attitude that we went with over both the legs. I think that especially going to the Nou Camp is never going to be easy. As you say, it's a very strong Barcelona team, but I think that we went there with that confidence, and I think we knew we were going to get chances against Hansi Flick's high line at times. But I was also surprised. I mean, just how quickly that happened.
Yeah.
I don't think that Barcelona expected us to go at them as we did. And it just showed intent that in the end obviously carried us all the way through.
Yeah, you pointed out something interesting as well for me, because of course in the league at that point we were kind of struggling. We didn't have that confidence going into that game. We had lost important games, Bologna, Roma, and so Barcelona probably thought, okay, we've got this. They're not coming here with the right attitude. But then you put back Marcus Thuram and Denzel Dumfries, who probably had one of two shots during the training session the day before the game. And I don't know, that goal probably turned it around for us, I must say, because, if you start like that, it just gives you that extra motivation, that extra hype that you need, that energy in the game to say, I'm confident we can do that. And the way that goal came about as well is kind of ridiculous. I mean, it was just like a pure freedom on the pitch, if I can say that. I use that word to describe a goal. What do you say? What do you think?
It was just a moment of genius, really, wasn't it? It was like you say, it was one of those situations that you try on a training ground and probably 100 times and never get it. Never mind trying that in a game. And I would like to add to the point you made as well. I do think because, you look at the quality of both of those goals, it was unbelievable. But I do wonder if part of the reason that we did seem to be a little bit out of gas at the time before this game, if it was almost a purposeful tactic from Inzaghi to think, let's try and shock them. Let's see if we can try and get a lead and maybe even hold on to it, because, we don't want to be going toe-to-toe in that sense all game with them. In that sense, we need to have a bit of a break and a bit of time to defend. But whatever the reasons, not only did we start, as you say, in such brilliant fashion, but the quality of those goals, that must have shocked Barcelona in itself.
Yeah, before I get to Denzel Dumfries' goal, we're talking about quality of the shot. You just mentioned the defense. Of course, Barcelona had some very dangerous players, and we had to defend Lamine Yamal and Rafinha as well. And I was watching a very British person, David Attenborough. Do you know David Attenborough? Yeah, one of
I
my
know David
favorite
Attenborough, yeah.
British people in the world. Anyway, I was watching this documentary where in England, in the English Isles, where there's a massive eagle trying to chase and to catch a rabbit. You know, the rabbit is obviously trying to run away, and the eagle is hovering above the rabbit. You know, so the rabbit is Lamine Yamal, of course. How do you think this rabbit is gonna run on that field? In which direction?
Yeah, it's going to go all over the place, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to try and stay out of the way of that eagle. Absolutely, it's going to go absolutely every which way.
Changing direction, and that's exactly what it did at speed with a football attached to his foot. Of course, that was.
It was incredible. I mean, just let me correct you on one thing.
Yeah.
David Attenborough, your second favourite English person.
Because that's you.
But also with Yamal, you're right in the sense of just it's astonishing what he's doing at 17. I mean, I heard on the commentary, and I think it was in the first or second game, that he played now something like 101 games for Barcelona, and Messi at that age had played 5 for Barca.
Yeah, and on the age aspect, I want to pinch in with this age topic. Lamine Yamal's dad is 32 years of age, yeah? And the average age of Inter is 30 years and 56 days. So.
That is crazy. I mean, that is just, isn't that crazy? I mean, even for myself looking at that, I'm 12 years older than his father. So that's a worry in itself. But no, I mean, just the way that he's playing and the confidence. I mean, just for it just shows, you know, the player of that level, how we dealt with him. And Jan Sommer was a huge part of that over the two legs as well.
Yes.
As well as and he was experienced. You talk about the age there, but I think the experience of the team saw us through, definitely.
Yeah, of course, the experience. Also, that sometimes you had to mark him with 1, 2, 3 defenders at the same time, and you know it's not easy to gather them where he's trying to go at the speed. But on the opposite, I think, of Lamine Yamal is Denzel Dumfries in a way. I don't know. He's powerful, and I don't know. It's just pure power on the pitch, and I mean, technical as well, because the goal, the over the head kick he scored, the first goal, was just amazing goal, I think. What do you think about that goal?
Yeah, I mean, that was unbelievable in the sense of he just took a moment for him to sum it all up, really, and then to have to think about doing that and then actually execute it that quickly was something else. And, you know, we're seeing a lot of this from wing backs these days who are becoming more, you know, the traditional winger. Well, funnily enough, talking about Yamal, he's probably one of the very few players now who will run at players and cause them problems like the old wingers do. And instead, a lot of them are being replaced by wing backs. And these wing backs have got to be able to score goals. We've seen it with DiMarco, of course, this season, but Dumfries really has taken it on board. And he seems to be an absolute specialist now. You know, when he gets the ball, you are thinking there's a goal there somewhere.
Yeah, and Denzel Dumfries is the first Dutch player to both score and assist in a UEFA Champions League semi-final since Wesley Sneijder, who did it also for Inter Barcelona, Inter against Barcelona. So yeah, and Denzel also scored another one on that night. So again, what can you say? You know, you go back on the pitch after he's been away quite a while. It was I think 3 weeks that we have been without him. And what a way to, you know, that sums up the grit, the attitude that you put on the pitch, where you just go out and do what you want, you know, without thinking, oh, I might not be fit, or I'm not, you know, the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's as well. I think when you're looking at the beginning of the season, normally, if you go back 20 years or more, you'd be looking at your front two, whether that be, I don't know, Aldo Serena and Jurgen Klinsmann. You'd be thinking, right, how many are they going to score, or whoever that might be at the time. And you think, well, maybe Mateus will drop in another maybe 10 goals. But now you're looking at a squad that's everyone seems to be getting in on the act, but especially the wing backs. Dumfries especially seems to be really, really, as I said before, making that a real, not just a skill set, but a real big part of his game now.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a huge threat, and it's great for us.
Yes. Then, of course, I went to San Siro to watch the game, and I think it was been one of the craziest experiences in my life. It was I don't know, it wasn't just the energy, it was of the stadium, of course, the fans, the cheering. It's a Champions League semi-final at home, but it's what actually happened in the game. I mean, I was my heart skipped several beats.
Yeah.
I saw fans crying mid through the game, and we started hugging each other just before extra time. I mean, it was. I mean, what probably kept us more alive were Sommer's saves, to be honest. You know, because when you think, when you see the ball, the shot being taken, and you say, oh, that's gonna go in. No, there's no way, and he saves that, and that was ridiculous. But yeah, another game where we opened the game with Lautaro, when the whole story there was pretty amazing as well, where in the first leg he had to come off with his injury, what we didn't know if he was gonna able to make it for the second leg, and he recovered on his own at home training, trying his best, do whatever he could to make it, and then he steps on the pitch and boom, goal, opening goal. What was that for you, Richard?
Well, it was so strange because, I mean, like everybody else, I don't, whether you're at the stadium, whether you're watching it on television, wherever you were in the world there, I'm sure, I don't think it was just about, when I've spoken to so many people about this game, it was a game the world stopped and watched, because it wasn't even just about the fact of Inter or Barcelona. That game was one of the best Champions League doubleheaders probably ever. Lots of people in the English media saying, that was the best game easily within 20 years. I think Seed have said the same thing on the night. It was an incredible game. And for me personally, of course, I a mild heart attack nearly, at least. But it was so funny for me being in the UK actually for that. And so many people, my phone was going off non-stop. By people I've not even spoken to in ages, just asking me generally, are you okay?
Yeah, I know. I tell you what, that night, the game finished a little bit later, of course. But by the time we stayed there, of course, because the players wanted to say to cheer with the crowd as well. So we stayed a little bit longer. But by the time I got home, it was at 2 a.m. and I could not sleep. I could not sleep. I kept thinking about it. And the day after, I think I watched their highlights back about three or four times.
Yeah.
Because you really want to see, okay, that's what actually happened. Because obviously the way you see it in the stadium, I don't think is always the same way as you see it on the television. There's a different corner where you watch it or not.
It's one of those nights where I think that in 10, 15 years, it's one that all Inter fans will remember.
Yeah.
Because, you can look at certain ones. I could list a load off now, but there's the really big ones, the really good ones. That's going to be. Especially if we go on and win it now, that will be even more legendary. But Jan Sommer, just going back to that point, he was absolutely outstanding. The save on Yamal, been saying it all season about him, whether it's been on here or on the podcast. I've been really waxing lyrical about him because for me, it's the calmness of him.
Yeah.
It resonates throughout the team, and it really does help. And then the ability, he just keeps himself to a point of just absolute peak condition, and he was absolutely fantastic and well deserved the man of the match.
Yeah, exactly. It was man of the match on the night, and really, of course he cannot save everything. Some goals are impossible to save, but the ones that he saved looked impossible to save, if that makes sense. Yeah. Coming back to Lautaro Martinez instead, he scored 9 goals in UEFA Champions League, and is joined for most goals at Inter in a single campaign together with Hernan Crespo back in 2002-2003. And speaking about scoring goals, of course the game went our way, and then Barcelona did Barcelona, where they don't care how many goals they've got on the score sheet against. So we're not in their favour. They just go and try again, and that's exactly what they did. At one point, our advantage was gone, and that was a moment in the game I will never forget. I was nearly sick, to be honest, because you look around and you see the anxiety building up, saying this is happening. This can't be happening like this. We don't deserve that, And then the impossible happened. How do you describe that impossible? Yeah,
that's it. It was impossible. Barca. It was so strange because as soon as that goal that they'd scored, you think that they would maybe try and retreat back, and they didn't. They still played that high line,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, but even then, and it happened in so. By the time you'd realise the high line was still being played, next thing, Cherub's got the ball in the back of the goal, and he's running off in mad celebrations. And for him, he was going strong. Was he 37 now? And he
37 years of age and 85 days. Francesco Cerbi is the second oldest player to score in UEFA Champions League semi-final after Ryan Giggs in 2011 against Schalke. He was 37 years and 148 days. Ryan Giggs. What a name to bring up in this show.
I don't know.
Ryan, if you're listening, join us.
Yeah, exactly. It was incredible. I think that whole element of the never say die attitude within this season is phenomenal, and just the atmosphere must have been amazing in the stadium, because it resonated on the screen, and it was absolutely unbelievable. And it was one of those moments where I'm just going to make a point how tired some of the players were at this point.
But I think that I don't know if you have ever experienced this in sports yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes you reach that limit and you just don't feel anything anymore, and so there's something that pushes you, and you feel kind of numb. So it can be difficult because you don't know if you're actually hurt, if your muscles are hurting or not. But you just go and do it, If you have to make that run, you do it. And Francesco Cerbi, he was just there and said, "I'm going. Bye."
Yeah. The thing is as well, when you talk about in England, what you call it, your second wind, rather than if you have that and then you keep going again, and you can go through that breaking point.
Yeah.
But people like Marcus Thuram, never mind second wind, it's third, fourth, fifth. How he was still going and then kept sort of invigorating himself. And that goes for a lot of the team. And you're right. I think it was just that point of determination and seeing it through, and that was really incredible.
Now, of course, before we go and talk about what happened last night against Torino in Turin, I have been watching, of course, who we are going to meet in Munich on May 31st. I'm talking about PSG. And what are your thoughts? Just, objective thoughts on having seen the game against Arsenal and what happened there. I don't know. I can't really make my mind up. And also a big something that needs to be taken into account before we go and speculate on this is that it is the final, so anything can happen. That's there isn't a strong. It's so difficult.
It is difficult because, like you rightly say, it's a final. So, there's obviously no home advantage. And when you look at the team, Donnarumma also had to put in an absolute display against Arsenal. The likes of someone we may know, certain Hakimi played exceptionally well. So, they've got a very strong squad. I think, Kvaratskhelia was brilliant again, and Neves as well. But so they've got the team. Of course, we know that. I think the only one thing that worried me a little bit probably was that at the end of the game against Arsenal, they didn't really seem to be exhausted. But
Arsenal were not. Arsenal are a very physical team normally, but I don't think they were on top of their game on their second leg against Paris Saint-Germain. I don't think they were. And looking at, if you think about it, they've actually been doing really well in the Premier League. And when we met them, it was probably still a bit early days in the season. And we did well against them. So who knows? But all in all, what worries me most, as like you said, is Donnarumma, who seems to be catching everything that's been thrown at him. He did a massive save on a really, really fast far ball that it was impossible, I think, to save as well. And Hakimi, technical, powerful, really fast. Not easy to defend that one.
No, it's not. But we know him at least, and I think look, we've got Jan Sommer as well, so maybe it'd be a game of the goalkeepers, but. It's going to be a fascinating final, and like you say, it's a one-off game. And Inter have got a pedigree and history in the tournament. Paris Saint-Germain will still be, maybe, I'm hoping, a little bit more nervous because there's a lot of expense.
But that's the thing. That's the factor the factor that puts it all into different perspectives, that PSG really won this because they've gone really close to it, really close to it, and they've had really strong teams when they were so close to it, and they didn't get to the end of it, and now it's their time. We went really close to it very recently, and we didn't get to it. So everyone has got motivation. Everyone's got, what they need in terms of motivation to go and do their best. What else can you aim for if you're a footballer, if not the Champions League final? One thing that can actually change, though, the mood that you get to there is what's going to happen in the league for us, because now we are in a bit of a pickle.
Just a little bit. Good problems.
No, it's a good pickle. It's a pleasant pickle because, of course, after last night games against Torino, where we won and got 3 points, and Napoli drew. So that leaves a 1 point margin against table leaders, and we've got still 2 games to go. Next game is going to be against Lazio at home. And Lazio, of course, with all the history, with Inzaghi, De Vrij having been there, it's always a particular game. But if you think about it, last time we met them was in the Coppa Italia. It was a very, very good game, I think, with Arnautovic scoring an incredible goal and Çalhanoğlu as well with his second goal, the penalty. With he switched things around kind of thing in terms of the way that goal was scored. But yeah, that last night games and as well the game against Hellas Verona put us back with the right motivation. Of course, there's a lot more confidence coming in with the fact that we are in Champions League final. I think I saw a lot of players last night giving it an extra go. Joaquin Correa, Taremi as well being more on point with everything he did on the pitch. And in the pouring rain, which was our third thing that I mentioned at the start of the show. What do you think about last night's game, Richard?
Yeah, it was interesting in the sense of the amount of rotation, because when you saw the likes, even to like we were talking about before with goalkeepers, Martinez coming in, you mentioned Taremi, Zalewski, there was a whole tranche of players brought in to try and do the job, and they did it so professionally. I think all the noise coming out of the media this morning seems to be a bit of surprise of just how controlled it was. Like you say, the rain, it seems to be something. Maybe we hope it rains in Munich because...
well, not so much. Yeah, yesterday it was a bit catastrophic because at one point the referee was looking at how the ball was bouncing and it was not. So they tried to take it to half-time, resume the game after the break and see how it goes. And it went a little bit better, but the pitch was... we have this torrential kind of, we call them water bombs. I don't know if you call them like that in English, but that's how we call them, where so much rain comes down and the soil does not absorb any water at all. So everything gets flooded. It's not a problem of the pitch itself, just to clarify. It's just the amount of rain is huge. But yeah, you were mentioning the amount of players involved. It was only nine players different from what was cited in the second leg against Barcelona, and another player on the score sheet this season in Serie A, Zalewski, for a total of 19 different players for Inter on the score sheet this season. I'm starting to think, I'm talking about Serie A, I started to think if you can name who hasn't been on the score sheet out of the Inzaghi squad in Serie A. Because I'm struggling now.
I'm struggling. That's
maybe Sommer.
Yeah, goalkeepers.
Sommer Di Gennaro.
Yeah, okay. Not having any goalkeepers there. That would be. Has De Vrij scored?
I think he did. I think De Vrij scored. Don't ask me when, because now I'm more.
I think he may have actually now. No, I'm thinking he might have done. I know Augusto scored. Asani scored.
I think Taremi scored in the Champions League, I think, but not in the league. But yeah,
there you go.
They also the midfielders all scored.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, Alessandro Bastoni, after last night, is the centre back that served the most assists in the Serie A with 5. I mean, that tells you a lot about the role of Bastoni in the team, doesn't it?
Because he does, and I think if you were saying to me, right, I want 3 players to create a highlights package of passing, You'd obviously go to the likes of Barella and Hakan, but I'd put Bastoni straight in there. I just think he's, and that's probably why. Obviously, the system helps, the way that he can go forward, the way that the wing backs overlap and fit in. Of course, it allows him to get forward a lot more, but he's still really impressive. And his all-round gameplay. I mean, you can't take away what he does defensively, but just it's again what we were saying before. There's so many people who can add value to the attacking proportion. And when you've got the amount of players that we've rotated, all these players, I'm not saying they're all fresh, but they've all had game time, they've all had minutes. So they're not, they're all confident when it comes up to playing. And obviously people like whoever it might be, whether it's Bastoni, whether it's, as we've mentioned before, Dumfries, when their times they're asked to perform, they do. And it's been a real revelation and this season of how much and how well we've rotated.
It's true, but if you think about also Bastoni, I've got these scenes of him playing against Yamal, finding himself 1v1 against Yamal, and the way you go, right, you're not going here. I've decided, sorry, mate, I'm not letting you pass this.
You will not pass.
No. Yeah, so there's still, we got, of course, the Lazio game and the Como game, while Napoli have Parma away and Cagliari at home. That's to talk about the league, which, of course, should finish before, of course, the Champions League final. And I don't know if that's going to have an effect or not. Surely it will. It's impossible, to switch off. But if you think about what happened just before the Champions League semi-final, the first leg against Barcelona, where completely whatever happened before was washed away. It didn't happen, those two games that was so determined so much how the campaign was going to end for us. So I don't know. I'm really positive. What's your opinion on this wrap up of the season?
It's interesting. It's all changed since yesterday. My take on this, because obviously with Parma, they're on 32 points, Cagliari on 33, so not mathematically safe as yet. Yeah. So both of those games are going to matter, and obviously Napoli's confidence will be dented after the draw against Genoa.
Yeah.
So that gives us some hope. Lazio is obviously a very difficult game. I would imagine, and I have no inkling, of course, but I just would imagine that team that we saw against Torino will probably play against Lazio. And then obviously if it will be, that's when the interesting question will be, because if we beat Lazio and Napoli slip up, surely it's going to be full strength against Como and full strength in the Champions League.
That's true. Anyway, there's still a bit before we wrap up the season, but it's time for us to wrap up this show. And thank you for joining us. And thank you, Richard, for being with me again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure coming here and talking Inter. So thank you.
Bye-bye.